In a world where Batman does not exist, where superheroes are treated as a commodity, and frankly, many things are staged so that the public believes that these superheroes are magnificent, well, we have people that need to deal with the true issues in life and the true issues that plague this world. Now, the supes have overrun so much of this world, and the supes seem to continue on their journey and warpath to become the only race that would exist, even though they are humans as well. These superhuman-like beings, other known as supes, have been injected with something known as Compound V, but it seems like there are studies and experiments going on in something known as Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum is riddled with villains that many have never seen, and riddled with villains that many have never even known of. Villains that are truly terrifying, villains that are truly holding on to motives that you can never and possibly imagine. But there's a group of people known as the Boys that need to shut down Arkham Asylum and take the research that is currently being created there, and also anything else they find useful, to make sure that they can stop the supes in their world. Could the Boys do this? Can they survive? Will they even be able to live throughout the entirety of the events of Arkham Asylum? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video. Could the Boys survive Arkham Asylum? Now, as always, if you enjoy the video, please show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. If you like that intro, yeah, show some love for the intro. But now, with that said, I'm sure some of you don't even know what the boys are, or basically, if you do know, then I'm going to do a very brief rundown. But other than that, I just want to talk about who the boys and who the boys are and who we are currently including. Now, I want to say, first off, I will be not going based off of the comics of the boys. I think the comics of the boys is pretty bad, and I honestly think the TV show is vastly better, but maybe that's just a bad opinion, but it's my opinion, so I'm gonna stick with it. Now, I will be talking about a couple people. By a couple people, I mean, well, 6 people, and those 6 people will start with Billy Butcher, then Huey Campbell, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, and Starlight. Some of you may think, well, Starlight isn't part of the boys, but in the most recent season, or in the end of the previous season, she does join the boys. So I decided, why not throw them a bone and put Starlight in there as well, because they are going to be dealing with some very terrifying and very horrible villains throughout this entirety of this event, and on top of that, trying to actually eliminate all of them and gain something that can help them against the supes is going to be a tall task. Now, for starters, Billy Butcher is someone that is of peak human ability. He's a marksman and he's extremely intelligent. He is definitely the head of the entire operation, and he has massive amounts of military training. So you could say to a large degree, he is the fighter, you could say, of the group in terms of being a flat out human being. But as we know, there are 2 people here that are actual supes, so we will speak on that as well. Now, I want to make this very clear. Billy Butcher does not have access to Temp V. We know that his lifespan is a lot shorter because of Temp V, so we will not be including that at all as well. Now, let's go on to Huey Campbell, who is basically a nerdy guy, and also the boyfriend of Starlight. Now, I will say he is a lucky SOB. I won't repeat what that truly means, but most of you know what that acronym means. But he is a lucky SOB, but he is kind of just the nerdy guy. Yes, he's pretty good with some tech stuff and stuff like that, but we all know that Arkham Asylum does lack a lot of technological functions, so he probably won't be too useful in this whole entirety of this endeavor. But for anything that could possibly be of nerdy instinct, maybe he can be helpful. Then we go on to Mother's Milk, who I will be referencing as Mother's Milk the entirety of the video. Deal with it, don't really care. And he's more or less just a previous medic in the Marines, pretty skilled fighter, pretty well conditioned in terms of peak human being, but he is mostly a previous medic in the Marines, and he doesn't have any added soup or kind of soup DNA or any temp V or, and any of that in general. Then we go on to Frenchie, who Frenchie is a former international arms trafficker, but he's kind of in the same boat of Mother's Milk, where he isn't too skilled in terms of a lot of different aspects, but probably even lesser than Mother's Milk, because Mother's Milk does have a little bit of fighting experience to him. But I'm gonna be honest, Frenchie, not as much. He's not very good at the fighting. He's not even military based. He was more of a trafficker type of person who was doing a lot of illegal things. But now these are the two people that, in my opinion, make this somewhat fair, but at the same time, we'll talk about that. I mean, is it really fair? Is starting with Kimiko. Kimiko is a soup or a superhero, quote unquote, or someone that has V within her blood. She has the power of super agility, strength, healing, and also has massive amounts of primal instincts. We see her on different occasions do some pretty heinous things and do some pretty graphic things, like snapping or breaking a leg in literal half, and also going blow to blow with someone like Black Noir, who actually injured her greatly, but she was able to regenerate it pretty damn quickly. Now, Kimiko is one of the stronger fighters definitely in this group, and is used as such in the Boys TV show as well, because let's be honest, Kimiko is 100% needed in terms of superhuman-like conflict. Then we go on to someone like Starlight, who we know as one of the members of the Seven, or previous member of the Seven, some of the strongest superheroes in the United States. And she has superhuman abilities and durability, so she has enhanced superhuman strength and stuff like that. But we literally see her be able to tank a Barrett 50 cal shot on multiple occasions, right in the chest from Billy Butcher. So that does definitely stack up with the idea of how durable she truly is. And also she has light generation or electrical conversion, which could allow her to shoot beams or emit different energies and stuff like that. And she was also able to go and throw some hands with someone like Soldier Boy, so that does stack her up pretty damn well against some of these villains. Now, let's get into what truly matters. If they can truly take down Arkham Asylum, and also can they get some of the other experiments that are currently going on in Arkham Asylum to help them against the war against the Supes. Now, obviously, I'm going to start with something very basic. They head into Arkham Asylum, and it seems like they are sent by some sort of military help or just some covert ops unit, and they inform Arkham Asylum of this. Now, they have been having massive issues, especially with someone like the Joker, and what it seems to be the spreading of the Titan formula. The Titan formula seems to be juicing up people like drastically, and seems to be gaining many different villains vast amounts of strength, but also seems to have massive repercussions if used improperly and at wrong dosages. So they get this information and everybody kind of clears out for the most part, but there are some basic prison guards as well still within, making sure that all the villains are kind of accounted for. But everything is run amok, especially when the Joker, one of the main villains within Arkham Asylum, gets loose, and quickly he takes a guard hostage almost immediately, and he would escape very quickly. This would lead the crew, or the boys crew, to dig deeper into Arkham Asylum and eventually come across their first villain they're going to have to be dealing with, and that would be Zsasz. Zsasz is a more or less basic villain, and he's kind of holding up one of the guards. Their goal currently is to save the guard, and of course with someone like Starlight there, she would definitely want to save the guard, and someone like Huey Campbell would as well. Now, this is very reliant on being able to basically go and knock him out pretty easily through maybe a tactic of stealth or maybe swinging across different ledges. But we all know that Starlight has superhuman-like abilities with electrical conservation or conversion, excuse me. And there's a good chance that she could use that power to easily defeat or easily scorch Zsasz and put him out, at least out cold. But even if that wasn't the case, Kimiko would definitely be able to dash and also jump across different ledges, getting over to that the person by the name of Zsasz relatively easily, being able to knock him out, saving the guard. And they would think that this was pretty easy. Maybe this night won't be as hard as they think it would be, but that's where they will be very, very, and I mean very, wrong. Because the first actual true test would be the Titan Henchman. The Joker would laugh at them as he releases the Titan Henchman, a freak, a monster, and a giant being. And this being right here is a pretty menacing one. Now, Kimiko and Starlight do have massive advantages in terms of being that they are soups, but Butcher, Huey Campbell, Mother's Milk, and Frenchie are completely out of the sorts, especially with something like this going on. They are practically useless in this degree because the Titan Henchman would absolutely tear them limb from limb. And even Kimiko and Starlight do struggle a bit with the Titan Henchman because of its raw ability and its raw strength. But luckily enough, with a little bit of pushback from Kimiko and Starlight, they're able to force the Titan Henchman to have a heart attack and completely and utterly pass out, or, well, die. But that's kind of beyond the point. Now, this is where things get extremely, extremely scary, and that would have to deal with the one and only Scarecrow. This is where things get very, very, very dicey, because people like, well, Butcher, Huey Campbell, Mother's Milk, and maybe even to a degree Frenchie would be immediately put out of commission. Now, that's depending if all of them stay together at all times. In hopes of basically getting the rest of the asylum done pretty quickly, maybe they decide to split up. But for the most part, all of the normal humans that decide to, well, breathe in the air from the fear toxin that is pumping through the vents, let's just say they will not have the nicest hangover and the nicest time when facing their biggest fears. Billy Butcher probably facing fears dealing with his long lost wife, maybe even Homelander, maybe even the son that his wife or former wife had at one point via the you-know-what of Homelander. Maybe Huey Campbell replays the nights that his ex-girlfriend died because of A-Train, or maybe even seeing A-Train tear apart even more of his family members, maybe even including someone like Starlight. Mother's Milk, it could be his family, and Frenchie, it could be even Kimiko herself, being that Kimiko is a big part of what he is now. These four will be extremely susceptible to everything Scarecrow does, and massively susceptible to everything that Scarecrow does. The two that would most likely be able to resist a little bit more would definitely be Kimiko and Starlight. But I want to make this clear, I think Starlight would be pretty susceptible to this as well. I honestly don't think Kimiko would be as much, just because of the way her primal instincts work, and she is very animalistic. Now, this could go both ways. This is very hypothetical, because Kimiko could technically be affected even greater than everybody else, and it would lead to literally everyone here dying because of the effect that it has on her. But I would be in the boat of her having a massive resistance to something like fear toxin, and her getting over so much of the things that she already went through. I think she'd be able to resist it pretty damn well. And, well, Starlight, she does have some things that she needs to deal with, and some things overall that she deals with mentally, so I'm sure that she wouldn't be, perfectly safe from the fear toxin. So there's a good chance that 5 of our 6 people from the boys' crew are knocked out in the very first round against Scarecrow, because Scarecrow is one hell of a villain and one hell of a combatant. Now, I won't just end it off there, because I do want to speak on some of the other things, because I believe that they deserve that, at least to a degree. Let's say on the off chance that they somehow break free, I don't think they would go unscathed. So some of the more weaker-minded people I definitely think would be pushed out of here. Maybe Frenchie. I think Frenchie, Huey are very good knockouts, so I would definitely say those two for sure would be knocked out. I would say Billy Butcher and Mother's Milk still hang on with Kimiko and Starlight, and they would go on to take on Bane. Now, Bane is a tough fight. Bane is extremely strong, and he's even stronger when pumped full of Titan. Now, this would be a fight for both Kimiko and Starlight. We all know that, well, Butcher and Mother's Milk would not be able to do much in this scenario, other than the fact that Butcher would probably have the intellect to realize that the tubes on the back of Bane are extremely vital to the strength that is pumping through his veins. This would allow them to somewhat get around the fact that his strength is massively overwhelming and is extremely strong. I mean, we're talking about a Bane that has lived through quite a lot, even getting completely, slammed by a Batmobile into the water, and frankly, his durability is kind of next level. So it would be kind of hard to deal with overall, especially when you don't have a Batmobile in this scenario. But I could see potentially them cutting the tubes, and maybe with enough light, Starlight could actually help with some long-range attacks, and maybe Kimiko can subdue some of the weaker body parts of Bane, being that, maybe hit some vital points, maybe some different veins and different arteries and stuff like that could actually lead to the death of Bane. But I could definitely see some actual panic within this fight, because this is a tough one to go down. And frankly enough, Kimiko might even get the short end of the stick with some of the damage that she possibly could take, because Bane is no slouch, and if he did get hands on Kimiko, we could be talking about a Kimiko that is ripped in half. Now, I won't go that far, because I think Kimiko has enough agility to survive, and her healing factor is pretty damn strong, so I can see them defeating Bane. But how would a fight with Scarecrow or the next Scarecrow fight actually go? Now, last time we lost two people, and spoiler alerts, this time you're losing more, because Scarecrow is probably one of the most, if not the most, dangerous villain right now in Arkham Asylum for this group. I could easily knock off people like Billy Butcher and Mother's Milk, maybe even go as far as Kimiko or Starlight, because of a different dose of, well, Scarecrow toxin or fear toxin. We are talking about a second dose, and we all know that the more potent it is, the worse it's going to get for them. So even if they did hold up resistances, we would be leading to some massive fear dreams that probably wouldn't bode over too well for the crew. Now, this is probably where I would definitely knock out the rest of the original boys crew. So for those who are wondering why I didn't just, make it the boys crew, well, that's because they would literally just die, like, immediately. And frankly, I'm probably being a little too nice with some of these other people, but still, their resistances are pretty good. But I honestly do think not only the original boys crew, but possibly everybody dies here. I mean, we're talking about some heavy stuff here with Scarecrow, and the fear toxin would not help. I mean, I think really it would only be Kimiko and Starlight left, and one of the soups, being that, one of those two, might fall right here in this second Scarecrow fight, because they're definitely not going to fall against Harley Quinn, because these fights are very easy. I mean, we're talking about just some henchmen, we're talking about Harley Quinn, who's not super powered, who's not really that important, and so on, blah, 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 right? Harley Quinn's not that important, I'm gonna be honest. There's nothing crazy with Harley Quinn. The third Scarecrow fight, though, is kind of just end all be all. I mean, it shows how impressive it is mentally that Batman could get through all of these things, because these Scarecrow fights just means more fear toxin, more effect, and also just more things that they have to experience And Kimiko and also Starlight may have resistance, possibly. Kimiko, I believe, would have resistance to a large extent. But once you start creeping deeper back into the really, really dark stuff in the mind, especially back with Kimiko, we are dealing with some scary, scary things, and that could put them straight out of commission. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the last 3 bosses, but I want to say that very clearly. I do believe that Scarecrow is such a factor in all of this that I think the boys' crew just gets wiped out because of Scarecrow himself. Now, I will go on to Killer Croc because I think the matchup between Killer Croc, Starlight, and Kimiko is a pretty interesting one. I think in terms of raw strength, maybe Kimiko can somewhat keep up. Starlight, in terms of raw strength, I don't think would be able to keep up with Killer Croc. But like I said, electric conversion is something that is definitely key. So if they can interact with that, there's probably some weakness in there that they can do or deal with in terms of electrifying the water and actually hurting Killer Croc. I know some people do say that Killer Croc is resistant to electricity, but just because you are resistant to one thing does not mean you are fully immune to it. And we know that water and electricity are like a perfect match, and they fry fish very, very easily. So if they're able to do that, then I could definitely see maybe them beating a Killer Croc, but that's a very, very solid maybe. Now, Poison Ivy, on the other hand, they straight up die to Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is what I always say is one of the strongest bosses that is only defeated because it's a video game sequence. Because this Poison Ivy juiced up with Titan formula is extremely overpowered, and if you made it realistic, Poison Ivy is damn strong, like damn strong. So I don't think even in a video game sequence, Starlight and Kimiko could even win this. But we're not talking about just a video game sequence. We're talking about in terms of how strong Poison Ivy truly is. If you don't die to Scarecrow, you're definitely dying to Poison Ivy, and that's for the entire crew as well. Shoot, they might even get taken over and controlled like little puppets. I don't know, man. Poison Ivy is a different level of strength. Now, going on to Titan Joker, obviously we're dealing with something a little different. We're dealing with a Bane-like experience now. It's not exactly like Bane, but Titan Joker is pretty damn powerful. And if he decides, well, let me just inject Kimiko or Starlight or someone like that with the Titan formula, we are dealing with something interesting. Maybe Kimiko gets way stronger. Maybe she can control it. Maybe she can't. Maybe she just dies. I'm not sure. But Titan Joker overall is a pretty basic fight. I mean, I know he's pretty strong, but I honestly do think the combination of Kimiko and Starlight should be able to take him down. But like I said, I think the whole crew would be dead far before this because of Scarecrow, and if not, because of Poison Ivy, for sure. Now, the question is, could the boys survive Arkham Asylum? Definitely not. Could the boys somehow get any information, any good stuff out of Arkham Asylum to take on the Supes? Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. The hope would be, in an actual scenario, would be that the boys would try to extract information without conflicting with some of the villains here, especially some of the next level villains, and maybe even getting a sample of, well, that beautiful fear toxin, because if they get some of that, I mean, we are dealing with another next level type of way to take down some Supes. But obviously that's a totally different topic for a totally different day. I think most of you have seen that I kind of stopped or kind of strayed away from doing videos like this, doing videos like, oh, could this person survive this? Because, in my opinion, not as fun for me personally, but I've been holding on to this one for a while, and I really wanted to do this one. I think you guys can tell that I was very excited to do this video. So if y'all enjoyed it, and you enjoyed my little breakdown, and you have any comments for yourself, maybe some ideas that I didn't talk about, or maybe something that you feel, oh, maybe they could do this, maybe they could do that, or, you know, so on and so forth, let me know all that in the comment section below. I appreciate all the love and support that I get from you guys, and I appreciate all the people that are enjoying the videos. But like I said, comment down below anything that you have to comment about the video. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe you have some suggestions for me to do in the very near future. But like I said, leave them below. And if you enjoyed Show some love. And yeah, that's really all I got to say. And if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes that you'll enjoy this one. So might as well go check it out, right? Might as well.